Welcome to Match Point. It's Stumps on day 2 of the first test between India and the West Indies. And well, if you're an India fan, there couldn't have been a better session that you've asked for. 354 for 6. A final session, unscared. Ravichandran Ashwin on 92. And I'm mentioning first because we're not going to mention him as much as we're going to mention the other batsman in this session who steals all the headlines. Rohit Sharma, centurion on debut. We're going to get into all the numbers, all the stats and everything to do with Rohit Sharma, who's been a perennial frustrator, but until now. So before that, let's talk about the match itself. Sanjay, India couldn't have asked for a better session.
Yes, and the day belonged to the guy that you're seeing currently on the screen. Yeah. And you know what? We're going to dig deep into Rohit Sharma.
Oh, deep is a shallow level.
Right from his first-class career, we're going to decipher Rohit Sharma, who has been the star today at the Eden Gardens, and no better place to be a star than the Eden Gardens, because there's that extra fervor there at that venue. But coming back to the match, brilliant. I mean, India showed their class. They lost the cream of their batting, but they still have so much batting talent left that people like Dhoni, Rohit Sharma and Ashwin just making the difference. They're sort of galloping forward with that lead. And if you saw the body language of the West Indian, it seems like, you know, it's trouble time for them. So yes, the second session went against West Indies. Sammy starting off, you know, after lunch, providing a little bit of relief, may have just backfired. And once, you know, the combination of Ashwin and Rohit Sharma and the way they started playing Shillingford off the back foot, the off-spinner just lost the sting, just because of the way the batsmen were playing him. And once they had complete control, these two, over Shillingford, it just started to ease. The pitch became easier. Suddenly there was no more potency in off-spinners. Captaincy also was not greatly imaginative. I thought there should have been more of fast bowling, more of the short stuff. Nothing of that kind happened. And Indian batsmen, once they find themselves going in familiar batting conditions, they are unstoppable. That's what's happening.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned a very valid point here on the body language of the West Indies. And you've got to think the middle session was pretty much India's, barring the wicket of MS Dhoni, nothing else happened. The morning belonged to the West Indies. So surely they couldn't have had, that there wasn't so much time away from success that they would have come in saying, oh, the test match has totally gone one way. Had they got one wicket, they were into a genuine lower order. Bowlers who can bat. Why did they lack the intensity or the intent to just get that one wicket?
See, I'll tell you what, we have to accept, and that's where you can't be too harsh on the West Indies. It's not the number one side in the world. It's a team that plays against weaker oppositions more than the stronger opposition. Of late, their success has been against the weaker teams. So they have certain weaknesses, which you've got to understand. So yes, certain moves that don't go their way after lunch, when Sammy came in to bowl. And, when those opportunities are lost, it's difficult to get a team that is still not a team with great self-belief to come back. And then the onus is on the captain to inspire the team as much as he could. But one thing I thought Sammy didn't quite do enough, which I said earlier as well, he's got a couple of strong fast bowlers. And especially against Ashwin, I thought they could have used the short ball a little more. Once, Sammy found that the two batsmen that we are talking about was so comfortable against spin, he could have at least attacked Ashwin a little more with the faster bowlers, especially with the bouncer, considering the bounce was low, which would have troubled the batsman even more.
As good a batsman as Ravichandran Ashwin might be, and we're getting a lot of interesting reactions on social media suggesting that Ravichandran Ashwin could be the solution to India's balance in Test cricket, perhaps overseas, play him as a genuine number 6. We must talk a little bit about Ravichandran Ashwin, since I said at the start of the show that today Sanjay and me are going to take our put our surgeons' cloaks on and take our knives and everything, scissors, and dissect Rohit Sharma. But Ashwin, firstly, you've got to think he loves playing the West Indies, and he's so comfortable playing Shillingford, who had the top order in such a mystery. What does he do different? Does he just like playing spinners? Why there's such an ease about his batting? What do you attribute that kind of strong batting technique for a lower order batsman to?
First of all, you've got to look at people like Cheteshwar Pujara and Ashwin. These are guys who seem the studious kind. Seem like guys from the olden days, the classical batsman born in the modern era. Ashwin is the same, and I'm sure he's the success in T20 50 overs cricket, but he feels strongly about Test match cricket and the history around it. So when it comes to Test cricket, he also feels that his game is more adept at this level, especially when it comes to batting. To get a bit technical about why he bats so well is that when you see him, you'll see him meeting the ball under his eyes. He's never sort of reaching for the ball. So he has this confidence to just allow the ball to come to him. He's nicely balanced, wonderful hands. The timing was exquisite. I mean, today, what a treat it is for batsmen who enjoy to watch timing in batsmen, because there were two And there are very few better, timers of the ball than Rohit Sharma and Ashwin. So the timing, which doesn't, force him to use force, which sometimes put you off balance. And he's just got a good sense of the ball in Test match cricket.
I think temperamentally also is a point worth making, because I remember watching the Mumbai Test against England when Pujara scored 100, and it wouldn't have been possible if Ashwin wouldn't have held that one end up on his own. I think scored a good 60 if I remember correctly. He's also proving to be that that lower order batsman that can add those valuable runs towards the end. How important is that for a Test team, a successful Test team in the long run?
Yes, very few bowling attacks in the world have the same kind of sting right in the 70th or the 80th over when you come to the tail of the inning.
Yep.
So if you've got somebody like Ashwin, then, bowling attacks find it difficult. Fielders are starting to lose motivation. I mean, there was one shot that he played today off the back foot where he just punched it like this, and there was a deep point there, and at sweeper cover, he picked up a boundary.
Yeah.
So he's a guy who'll hit boundaries as well, not just singles and, block one end up. So very dangerous batsman. The only thing, as I said, they could have tried maybe bowling a few short balls up to him, and then, the balls that are pitched up work differently. If the batsman is, aware that a short ball is coming, but nothing of the kind happened. So it was just an easy passage, for these two very skilled batsmen.
Yeah, also for a spinner, playing the short ball, the minute you're getting your hands involved, this prospect of bruising the finger, a crucial finger or two, mentally to spin, should a bowling attack or a bowling captain go out with the plan that if there's a spinner who's batting, just aim at the hands, he's going to do something defensive, something odd, something uneasy?
Not so much for Ashwin, because I think he's a pretty good batsman to worry about his fingers, when the ball is short.
Okay.
Just that, we've seen in the past that it's something that you can try against him. And that's where, you sometimes get a bit disappointed with the cricketing intelligence that goes on at the highest level. Sammy is thinking as best as he could. But a lot of people who have watched Ashwin, watched Test cricket, would feel that he could have done a few things better. Permaul, tried his best. He was giving it everything, but nothing was happening. Shillingford, I thought he bowled as well as he did in the morning session. Just found that two batsmen were willing to play him off the back foot.
So is that the only thing different, that the batsman played him better? Or could he have done anything differently?
No, I think the batsman played him better. He bowled over the wicket, got all his wickets over the wicket. He came round the wicket as well. I mean, this again shows that if you're a good player of spin, you're not afraid to play spinners off the back foot. And that was, again, for me, just so nice to see people like Ashwin, Rohit Sharma, when the ball wasn't full, where they couldn't reach it off the front foot, calmly going on the back foot and just playing it with the spin, collecting runs. Just beautiful batting to watch today.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where the match stands at the end of day 2. It's 354 for 6 India. Rohit Sharma with a century on debut, carrying that Indian innings on, 127 not out. Ravichandran Ashwin with more than commendable support with 92. India lead by 120 runs at Stumps here on day 2. Shillingford did all the damage in the early morning. Tino Best and Cottrell were perhaps a little underbowled, as Sanjay Manjrekar pointed out. 42 by MS Dhoni after the West Indies won the toss and batted first yesterday with 234. 120 runs ahead at this time. It's going to be very hard for India to lose this Test match.
Yes, it seems like that, but let's not predict too much in Test match cricket, because we were thinking of a low scoring first inning, but that hasn't happened. And this is where Indian batting is dangerous, because they play on flat pitches, but what that does is that people like Ashwin also have played numerous number of balls, through local cricket, first-class cricket at the highest level. So once they find themselves set and in familiar conditions, all that, learnings come from just hitting balls come into play. And that's why Indian batsmen are so dangerous. We've seen recoveries of this kind happen in these conditions through people like Dhoni, Ashwin. It's not the first time we're seeing it.
Okay, so let's go to the man of the moment. We must talk about...
People must be wondering which match are these guys watching and not talking about.
Yeah, because we've spoken about 10 minutes or so. We've spoken about Ravichandran Ashwin, the West Indian bowlers. And, that's because by the time we're done with this show, we're not going to complain that we didn't talk enough of Rohit Sharma. And if you do, well, then we've got some serious work to do before match point tomorrow morning. But let's talk about RG Sharma, the talented Sharma. Everyone was talking about him as, talent is a word you associate with Rohit Sharma the minute you talk about him. And he's been that perennially frustrating batsman until, the recent past.
Let's talk about the kind of abuse Rohit Sharma used to get a few months back. I was, as an expert, when I would see this guy play a good innings or a spark of, when we'd see maybe a 30-40 kind of an innings and would still like it. And when you venture to say what a wonderful innings, that was you would get this backlash. You know, you experts think this guy is great and all that, but he's a no-hit Sharma. You know,
a no-hit Sharma.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of abuse from the fans, and the fans basically were frustrated, as you said.
Yeah, and
fans there
can
was
also
a talent to see, and it seemed like he was squandering all that away.
Yeah, and the fans can also take a little credit now to say if it wasn't for that abuse, Rohit Sharma wouldn't have been this marvel. I was a fan back then, so I still am of the game. But yeah, Rohit Sharma, let's go back to when he suddenly burst on the international scene. I'm saying it was sudden, Sanjay, because when he made his debut in the 2007 World T20, he only played 15 first-class matches before that. 851 runs at an average of just over 40. Now, there are those experts that I think that often say that 40 is not a good enough average to have in first-class cricket. But he suddenly sprang up. The selectors back then, saw somebody very early with a limited amount of first-class experience ready to play for India. So the first-class career had perhaps little to do with numbers, but a lot to do with showing at least the right people in Indian cricket that this is a player that can make it at the big stage.
I think the credit has to go to that typical Mumbai grapevine, the Mumbai selectors who get excited with the talent that they see. And, like Vinod Kambli, Sachin Tendulkar before Rohit Sharma, this was one of the few. I mean, the talent started drying up in Mumbai with batsmen. And this was one guy that people like Dilip Vengsarkar would talk about. I would say, how's the batting coming along? Because I wasn't quite keeping in touch with local cricket in Mumbai. And they would talk about a Rohit Sharma. He looks good. If he can just tighten up his game, he's a player to watch out for. So the credit really, when you see that kind of a score, it's not a score that should get you into the Indian team.
Correct.
So he was picked purely on talent. So first of all, you've got to congratulate the selector. At the time, I don't know whether it was Dilip Vengsarkar or Kiran More. I must find that out. It was the national selector has to be congratulated because he saw talent and he picked Rohit Sharma. Because he saw potential there. He could see that there's a guy out there who can play for India and play well.
Yeah, one interesting point that you did mention out there was he says, okay, talented player, selector saw him and said just needs to tighten his game. But that just needs to tighten his game took quite the gestation period, took a very long time. And now let's get into what Indian cricket and the people who wanted to watch Rohit Sharma went through in that time. His ODI career. With regard to the one-day career, you could almost see, in patches, Rohit Sharma, if you had to break up, he's played about 100 ODIs. And initially when he started, he gave us those 30, 40s. What can you tell us about the early career and, what was he most guilty of?
I'll tell you what happened with him. You saw those first-class runs.
Yeah.
And I tweeted about it as well, that the Mumbai selectors saw a test cricketer in Rohit Sharma. And I'm sure the national selectors also picked him because he seemed to be a guy made for test cricket.
Yeah.
They didn't pick him because they thought he was a T20 dasher or a 50 overs, devastating batsman. But as it turned out, he got opportunities in T20 cricket because India picked a young side and, Indian test team was dominated by all these stalwarts, the senior men. There was no place for him. And as it turned out, he seemed to have the talent as well for T20 and 50 overs cricket. So suddenly, people thought, wow, we've got a batsman for the shorter format. And I think that was a period when he wasn't quite sure, Rohit Sharma, how many shots to play, when to defend. He just couldn't get the balance right. Yeah. And I must confess, there was a point of time in that phase of his where I felt that perhaps this guy will never know the discipline of getting the longest scores. And I say this because, when I see a batsman play well in a home series, we saw him against West Indies at home the last time out. He had a phenomenal one-day series. And then went to Australia and just squandered opportunities. When you're in form, you've got to make the most of it. Yeah. But here's Rohit Sharma, shorter flying balls, trying to blast it through the covers and getting out. And then you started feeling, does he have the discipline at all?
Absolutely. Let's put that in perspective because we said we should break his career up a little bit, his ODI career. If you put it in two phases, you just take a look at that. Rohit Sharma's one-day batting average, before, you could say before 2009. So I think that would be 2007 to 2009, just under 25. Right, striking at 72, but look at 25 as a batting average for a top order batsman. I think he predominantly played at 4. You look at his batting after that, 2010 to 12, he's batting at 35, which is a little higher, but it's just not good enough, especially with the kind of competition and the quality of batsmen in one-day cricket. You could almost gauge that it took him such a long time. What was the frustration, as it kept building up? Why could he not improve in as many as 80 odd innings over there?
Yeah, it is something, you call it in simple terms as discipline. But it's also about, wanting to get the big scores. So sometimes, when you've got to 40, then you just sort of rein in your shots. But because he started playing T20, 50 overs cricket, he had all these shots at his disposal. And he would play some breathtaking shots.
Correct.
So he felt, confident about playing those shots. And don't forget, he also plays in a modern era where there's a Mahendra Singh Dhoni there backing him to play the natural game.
Yeah.
You see all these modern batsmen are encouraged to play the attacking game. So if ever he was questioned about the low score and shouldn't he be a little more respectful, more defensive, they would say that this is my game. So this is a generation which is taught to attack your way out of trouble. But the best thing that happened for Dhoni during that phase, for Rohit Sharma, was that Dhoni kept faith in him.
Yeah.
And now we see Rohit Sharma with this one-day form and this test match debut 100. And the credit once again has to go to Dhoni for that one selection. With Virat Kohli, it was at that Adelaide test match when he picked him up. Or was it Perth? Perth, I think, where he was given that additional opportunity. With Rohit, it was the Champions Trophy first game when he gambled on Rohit Sharma to open the innings. No one saw it coming.
Correct.
They thought Murli Vijay would be the man, but Rohit Sharma was back. There were no scores for Rohit Sharma before that, for him to get a place. But Dhoni again, saw something there like he saw with Virat Kohli and gave him the opportunity. And from then on, he hasn't looked back.
Yeah, I think let's if I could ask you a few things on what you just mentioned now. And Rohit Sharma, you spoke of how he's a naturally attacking player. He liked to play his shots. Now, often they say the first 30, 40 that you get is, the tougher runs. Once you're in there, then you should make the most of it. Invariably, that's where he used to get out. When do you start? Is it a case of somebody so talented and so skilled and playing some of the finest shots at 30, 40, telling himself, okay, now I'm comfortable, now I'm set, so I'll play the kind of shots, that he eventually got him out. When does a batsman tell himself, or when do you feel as a batsman that you're comfortable enough to try adventurous shots? Because I think Rohit Sharma clearly got that wrong if you looked at him earlier.
There are two phases actually, even in his failures. There are a couple of phases when he would get out in the 30s and 40s, where Tendulkar also had the same gifts, in fact better, during his young days. But Tendulkar was always careful about, reining all the shots that he had. So he was aware of the fact that, I've got 30, 40 runs. This bowler is looking pretty ordinary. I can hit him for 24 runs. The next over, no. But I've got to get that big score.
Yep.
So he would deliberately, it was a restriction imposed on himself because he had a goal in his mind to get those hundreds. Rohit Sharma, once he got to 30, 40, just wanted to dominate attacks. And sometimes, the shots that he had, too many of them, just proved to be his own downfall. That was the phase when he got out in the 30s and 40s. Yeah. But then there was an interesting phase that happened in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
I think it was the
Micromax Cup last year, that's right.
Yeah, where, how many did he get?
Well, he got 15 runs in 5 innings. His individual scores were 55044. Sounds more like one of the Bangalore pin codes. But if you just look at it, I think one important thing on that series was 3 bolts, 2 LBWs. What does that tell you technically about him that was troubling him?
Yeah, actually I was fortunate to do commentary on that particular series, and everyone else was getting runs, not Rohit Sharma.
Yeah.
And that was again a phase where his self-confidence had gone down. So basically he was coming in, wanting to get runs, and when you want to get runs, which happened to Shane Watson as well in the Ashes, early bit, you start to sort of get into positions very early instead of, watching the ball and reacting to it. So it was a case of just sort of falling over, too many thoughts in his head and not reacting to the ball calmly like he was doing in this match, where he was just watching the ball, reacting calmly because he was self-confident. He was relaxed, one-day form going behind him. So this was an opportunity that came at the right time. Was he short of runs, and had he come into this test match, would have been a completely different scenario.
Yeah, true. Now let's talk about where the maturity took place, where he suddenly became a player who understood when not to play the shot at 30, 40 to get himself out. What changed mentally, emotionally? When did Rohit Sharma become the more mature Rohit Sharma that we've come to see in the recent past?
I think a lot of people would also know what may have brought in this maturity. I think Saurav Ganguly was spot on commentary when he said, the leadership of IPL, the Champions League, leadership of Mumbai Indians, opening the innings, gives you a little more of a responsibility in one-day cricket. You feel obliged to get those hundreds because it's the greatest position in international cricket to get hundreds. So that may have just got him to, play the longer innings. And I was actually, I must confess, I was very impressed with his composure and his body language as a captain. I get this opportunity to meet the captains before an important game at tosses, and I always watch the captains very closely before an important game. And I used to see Rohit Sharma for Mumbai Indians games, and he was just walking, having fun, talking to people. Now I'm sure that's a Dhoni influence. there was a team, Australian team, when Steve Waugh was captaining, had all the qualities of Steve Waugh. This team is very influenced by Mahendra Singh Dhoni. I think Rohit Sharma, maybe he's a Mumbai guy, but I think Dhoni is more an influence on him than anything else. So he would come and be cool about it, and even when his team wasn't playing well, he would be quite calm, for someone so young. So I think that may have helped him become a little mature, but that's not to say that suddenly he's going to be the most disciplined batsman we'll see. I think you'll see a few indiscretions again.
He won't make
clearly the
that
maturity
as much,
has come. He's a lot more mature, showing in the runs.
Absolutely, and showing in the way he gets his runs as well. I think we saw him scoring runs, and he's become a player we've seen in T20 cricket who can score runs anywhere, of any line, any length. If you just take a look at where Rohit Sharma scores his runs or scored his runs today, what does that tell you, Sanjay? A lot of boundaries which are coming square on the wicket, not much straight. Is that a lot to do with the pitch, or is that because Rohit Sharma just prefers playing those kind of shots? Is it to do with the West Indies bowling and
in fact, when I look at the wagon wheel, I see a perfect wagon wheel where he's played shots everywhere except behind the wicket keeper. Now that is for Dilshan to do, not so much for
Pujara tried it this morning. Didn't work.
So that's a very good wagon wheel to see. And the thing about Rohit Sharma, he's got the classical game. That's why the Mumbai selectors were so impressed with this talent, because he was a classical player. Mumbai, stalwarts, all those guys, the selectors, they like people coming from a certain mold. But his success in T20 and 50 overs cricket comes from not a different game. It's just an extension of the basic game that he has. So it's not that suddenly he starts playing some T20 kind of shots. It's the same sort of cover drives, the pulls, the cuts that he plays in the air, or differently. So it's a good thing that the basic game has stayed with him. But we all felt that maybe Rohit Sharma's true calling is Test match cricket. Not about the 100, but just how calm he looked in that Test environment, especially after having played those kind of one-dayers when he had to hit every ball for 4 and 6. This kind of transition, and so easily. So maybe this is more his natural game, more his natural style of batting the longer format than T20 and 50 overs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at that wagon wheel as well, you look at Rohit Sharma, looking at that wagon wheel, it's Rohit Sharma in a one-day uniform saying this is what I was capable of. So I'm looking a lot at the photographs in our graphs these days, but that's what we tend to do. The other thing you must talk about, Sanjay, is something he's comfortable with, the short ball. Unusual. We heard Rahul Dravid talk about it pretty often, and for an Indian batsman to be so easy and so comfortable playing the short ball, it's something rare, something unique. Tell us a little more on how and why he finds it comfortable playing short pitch bowling.
Yeah, this is why I felt, amongst the young Indian batsmen, there was another reason why you needed to give him a chance to play Test cricket, because he doesn't have an issue with the short ball. Mahendra Singh Dhoni is another Indian batsman who doesn't have an issue with the short ball. And where he is different from some of the other Indian batsmen, or most Indian batsmen of the past, if a short ball is bowled by a spinner to an Indian batsman, they immediately get into a position to cut it or pull it. But when the same short ball is bowled by a quick bowler, it's often intimidated or get into a very defensive kind of posture. Rohit Sharma is different. You see him when there's a ball that is short from a fast bowler, he's quick, instinctively getting into a position to attack the ball. And he doesn't fear the short ball as some of the others do. VVS Lakshman also was in the same category. Dravid, when the short ball was bowled, they got into a position to capitalize on the ball to get some runs. Unlike most Indian batsmen in our era as well. When we saw the short ball, we were sort of on the defensive. Short ball, okay, we've got to defend it. Never looked at it as an attacking opportunity like the Australian batsmen do.
And now we've spoken about how MS Dhoni deserves a lot of credit for persisting with him. In fact, MS Dhoni's got enough abuse as well for keeping Rohit Sharma in the team as long as he has. But just moving away from this series and looking at South Africa ahead, perhaps even New Zealand later, but more in South Africa, how relieved would an MS Dhoni be that finally, the one player that I kept picking, has paid dividend, and that too timed almost perfectly before one of the toughest places in the world to play short pitch bowling.
Absolutely. I just hope that, we get some kind of reaction from Mahendra Singh Dhoni, but he's not one to say, I told you so. But I think there are quite a few individual players out there that Dhoni deserves all the credit for, not just by, giving motivational talks or something, but just putting, actions speaking for words by picking these players at the right time. Virat Kohli, after those failures initially in Australia, everyone had his neck on the chopping block. Dhoni backed him, gave him that extra Test match. He got runs in Perth and then 100 at Adelaide. Here again, Champions Trophy, first match. No one gave Rohit Sharma a chance. Dhoni gave him that chance and his career has changed after that.
Yeah, I think MS Dhoni set a strange precedent for Indian cricket because now anyone who's not doing well, everyone's going to cite Rohit Sharma and say, hold on, a couple of years later he's going to score a big 100 when India are in trouble.
And unlucky Ajinkya Rahane continues to be unlucky. The man who got the chance instead of him.
I would have loved to see a camera on Ajinkya Rahane when that 100 was scored. I'm sure he'd be happy for Rohit Sharma, but yeah, one of those. Yeah, we're all good friends. Yeah. All right. The other thing that is important now, Rohit Sharma, well, we're not going to go too much into what he could become, but he's got the technique. He's an all-round player. And the other important aspect, Sanjay, is that he seemed comfortable against all kinds of bowlers today. You know, if you just look at his the chart on how he scored runs against all the bowlers. So you could see he's got against Best and Cottrell, the Pacers, the little that he did face them, scored against them quite freely, scored against Shillingford, against Parmall. Sammy didn't bowl much, but no real weakness of a certain type of bowler. Some of the greater batsmen, Petersons and
Parmall actually has kept him a bit quiet, so that is interesting. But the best bowler, which was Shillingford, which when we have called him Shine
Shillingford, yeah.
So, and he's got 45 of the 88 balls bowled. So Ashwin and Rohit Sharma clearly diffused Shillingford.
The West Indian bomb that was triggered this morning against India. And also I think, did he time his aggression against Shillingford well? Initially kept playing him, defended him. I think he played just about every shot perfectly in defense. I was watching your expression, and you know, he suddenly went up and said, oh wow, and I just looked at the screen, I thought Sharma did something great, and he was just like that. So I think you enjoyed his defensive technique, and he probably accelerated just at the right time.
No, because I was pleased because both Ashwin and Rohit Sharma showed the right technique for all other batsmen in the world actually to how to play spin on a pitch that's turning a bit.
Yeah.
If the ball could be defended confidently off the front foot, that's the only time they were getting onto the front foot. So every time they were on the front foot, the ball was right under the bat. When they felt that they were not going to reach the ball, they were on the back foot. You saw Tendulkar was trying to reach with the bat, wasn't the pitch. These guys, the moment the ball wasn't within the reach, were on the back foot playing it calmly. So it was just great batsmanship to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I think we have to talk about the most important people in Rohit, who made Rohit Sharma rather the most important person in their lives, the fans. Because they've spoken about him so much. Like you said, he's got all the abuse. People who've picked him and been shown faith in him have got the abuse over the years. Has he won his fans over immediately, or is it very hard to win the Indian fan over?
There will be, I think, and rightly so. One shouldn't get too carried away with one performance. Let's not forget Suresh Raina got 100 on debut. But Rohit Sharma looks a little better equipped to handle the test challenges. So let's not get too carried away. But his one-day form, has improved. He's valuing runs. He's becoming more consistent. And this test match 100, apart from the number, the 100 that he's got, he looked like a test batsman who felt at home in a test match environment, which is just great to see. Yeah.
Very quickly, before we get the questions, from the fans, one general question that I put in. I think I've heard from a number of very senior ex-cricketers and ex-players, don't translate one-day form into test cricket. Has Rohit Sharma been just an exception, or thrown up an interesting argument that if you can score regularly, in one-day cricket, it can be translated to success in test cricket? At least this merits an opportunity.
I think Saurav Ganguly made that point in commentary where he said, he's picked at the right time and it may be one-day cricket. Yeah. But it's runs and it's self-confidence. Believe that you're part of this Indian team. At the international level, you've got some runs. But his success today is because he had that test game in him. Yeah. You can't expect a one-day dash who's had a great one-day series to suddenly get a test match opportunity because of that form and, able to translate. Why he's been able to continue the form into test match cricket is because he has the test match game and the test match temperament, which those selectors way back in 2005, 2006, the Mumbai selectors saw it in him, and they are the ones who will be truly happy today because they won't be too impressed with T20 and 50 over success. They look for test match success, and Rohit Sharma has finally given them what they wanted.
And there would be a serious sense of satisfaction in Rohit himself. We saw the expression when he got that 100, he'll sleep very well tonight. Right, so Sanjay Manjrekar, you can take off your doctor's cloak, you can take off the operation mask. We've dissected Rohit Sharma.
Taken the juice
I've just been providing you with the instruments, that's all, watching carefully. Let's take the questions that all of you have sent, and there have been plenty since Rohit Sharma tends to bring a lot of fans' attention. Karthik Kannan he sends the first one. I don't see Shillingford being as effective as he was in the morning. Has the pitch eased out today?
Combination of two things. I have to tell Karthik is one, both, as I said, Ashwin and Rohit Sharma batted beautifully. They played him off the back foot as well because he bowls the top spinner, the over spinner. These are guys who can play off the back foot, not the guys who skid the ball through, flatter trajectory. So they did that well. And another thing that you've got to remember is that Eden Gardens pitch eases out. In the morning, the spinners will have some bite. Afternoon, evening, it just becomes that much easier. The spin becomes a little slower, but it was combination of more, good batting and the pitch easing out in the afternoon and evening session.
Yeah, that was one thing I did want to ask you back then also when we spoke about the pitch. You were very curious to know how it would play on day 2, day 3. Is it the kind of pitch that becomes easier as the day progresses? Will there be some mystery in it tomorrow morning again?
I think the low bounce is something that we can say for sure that there is low bounce, but how badly it will deteriorate, who knows? Let's wait and see.
All right, let's wait and see for tomorrow morning. Let's take another question just before we can wrap up today's match point. Sandeep sends this one in. I know it's early, but it does seem like a new VVS can be seen in Rohit. I like this one. Your views, Sanjay, hashtag bat with the tail. Well, Ashwin being called the tail is, Ashwin would be showing 92 runs to you, Sandeep, hashtagging that.
200s as well.
Yeah, against the West Indies. But you could see why he's put that question forward, Didn't get unfazed when MS
The styles are similar. There is that lazy elegance to their batting. They hit the ball well. They've got a range of shots.
Yeah.
But VVS Lakshman would not have ever become an opener in one-day cricket, which Rohit Sharma has become. So that's where he's slightly different. But, VVS Lakshman's... you've got to applaud these people and take your hats off because of the long careers that they've had.
Yeah.
So this is just the start of the career. The comparison can come when Rohit Sharma threatens VVS Lakshman with an equally long career.
Yeah, Indian cricket fans don't take much to start comparisons, don't they?
And we are also sometimes not too different being Indians ourselves. We get a bit carried away.
Absolutely. Let's take the last question before we can summarize what happened today on day 2 in the first test. Hafiz Bilal Naveed, how well do you rate R. Ashwin as a number 8 batsman these days? I think you can add up to that. Is he one of the finest number 8s in world cricket?
Yeah, we were trying to find out.
Yeah, who are the other number 8s?
Who are the number 8s? And we came up with a few names around the world who batted number 8, and he certainly seems streets ahead of those number 8. So yes, not just the runs, just the ease with which he bats at that position is brilliant to see. So yes, I think that's a fair call. He could be perhaps the best number 8 in the world.
Yeah, fair call, says Sanjay Manjrekar. So we know that Ravichandran Ashwin is one of the finer number 8s. Let's summarize what happened today on day 2 of the first test between India and the West Indies. India resumed at 37 without loss. The first session belonged to the West Indies, taking I think 4 wickets, or 6 wickets rather. Sachin Tendulkar was out of a dubious LBW call. Just being told it's 5 wickets. Apologies for that. So yes, but Rohit Sharma and Ravichandran Ashwin has stolen the show. Just the 1 wicket in the middle session, Sanjay. And from here, it would be a hard game for the West Indies to try and pull back, especially with that kind of lead.
But again, you never know. You're a couple of wickets and it could all end up very quickly. So who knows what will happen. The first 30 minutes will be crucial.
Oh, I like the way he's put it. Again, I hope he had a personal shot for that.
Cliched things that we experts say every morning. The first 30 minutes will decide the fate of the match when there are so many other things that can decide the fate of the match.
Yeah, the first 30 minutes will decide the fate of the match. We'll have 30 minutes before the first 30 minutes tomorrow morning when Sanjay Manjrekar and myself join you for day 3 and the pre-game show on Matchpoint. We hope you're enjoying Matchpoint as it comes along, because I'm sure we're enjoying bringing it to you. So India on top after day 2. We'll see you tomorrow morning before the start of play. Thank you very much for watching Matchpoint. Bye-bye.
Thanks.